Well, good morning and welcome to the LBJ Grasslands outside of Decatur, Texas. A very unusual review today. I received emails from a number of subscribers asking me if I had any familiarity with and would I do a review of this waist pack that is advertised on Facebook. Now, I'll have to admit, as soon as I read advertised on Facebook, I was really skeptical. I'm not going to go into the entire economy of these products. That would be a 10-minute video in and of itself. Let's just say there's a lot of dissatisfaction with some of these products out there. However, there are pockets of products that seem to be adequate for casual use and they could be described as a value for the dollar. Is this one of them? I don't know. We're going to find out. Now, I will say that even though one of the subscribers gave me a URL of the e-commerce site where you could purchase this, I was not willing to purchase it out of my own pocket. It just seemed too expensive. I know from being on the inside, being a web developer for decades before I retired, knowing how e-commerce and a lot of this economy works, that I'm not dealing with the original manufacturer. I'm dealing with a distributor. That distributor is not going to be interested in reviews. It's not even worth contacting them. However, if something is worth selling, it's worth selling in multiple outlets. And of all the distributors that manufacturer has some relationship with, I've found that usually a small number of them are set up to sell on Amazon. So you can often find these Facebook advertised products on Amazon and for less cost. That's where I found this one. I got the orange one. I even found a green one. There may be other colors as well. It was much less expensive than the advertised price from the distributor that was given to me by the subscriber. So I was able to pick it up for points that I had in my account. I only had to pay shipping. That brings us up to today. Now, I've had this out for a couple hours of evaluation. Today, we're taking it out for a much longer exercise here at the Grasslands. I'm thinking probably on the order of 3, maybe 3.5 hours. We'll have to see. Now, I really want to get to it. We're getting pretty close to summertime. The sun's coming up. I can already feel the heat, so I want to get this exercise started. So I'm going to do a real quick overview of how the pack is organized. I've already got my gear set up. I'm running about 6.5, not quite 7 pounds here. And I'll take time as I stop out in the field and go over what I've got in the pack in more detail. And then when I get through and do the summary, I'm going to lay it all out on a table so you can see how much gear you can get into this pack. But very briefly, let me just go over where you can put stuff. First off, this pack is smaller than it may look online. You have an inner compartment, storage for water bottles. I've been running 20 ounces through there, no problem. You have these outer pockets. So these may look large, but with the padding in the back, you really can't fit much in here. It was actually a bit of work just for me to carefully fold up my keys like this and get them to fit. That's about all you can fit in there. The inner compartment is much more generous. You have 2 zippered compartments here, and then you have an area that you can either place something very small or you can lash it on the outside like I've done with my cat holder. You can also put some gear underneath the straps here, Let me show you what that looks like. I always like to carry a schmog with me. You never know what you might use it for. Whenever I load out, I do search and rescue as a private contractor, mostly at night. But I've gone through so many instances where I've just been out for a land navigation exercise, even what today should be a fun hike, and I run into someone, and that fun hike turns into a search and rescue activity. So I always load out presuming one of two things. Number one, I'm going to run into someone, and this is no longer going to be a fun morning hike. And number two, I preach this a lot in my review videos. Bad things happen to good people. Even though I should only be out for 3-4 hours tops in the morning, I should be back in time for lunch. But what happens if Mr. Murphy decides today is my day? He throws down his law on me, and now something happens and I'm stuck out at night. So I have enough gear packed so that if I get stuck out at night, I won't be without light, I won't be without resources to charge devices and so forth. So this is the loadout that I'm going out with today. Let's see how all of this carries. All right, well, here's the loadout. That's going pretty thin. These shoulder straps save the product. I don't normally care for waist bags at all. If this is a pure waist bag, I wouldn't even be doing this review. The shoulder straps help, but they're very thin and they don't accommodate loading any gear, not even a D-ring on them. That means things that I normally have on my straps, like ranger beads, whistle, backup lighting. I like to have my Garmin accessible in the front of my body. I might keep that in a chest rig, but I'm not wearing a chest rig today. Why? Because this interferes with getting access to my firearm. I've got access to my knife, but I've already tried this loadout with the firearm. Doesn't work, so I'm having to carry with a chest rig, carrying my 45 today with a couple of spares. Okay, no issue getting access to the firearm if it's called for. Means I have to carry other gear elsewhere. I've got my Garmin in a pocket. That's necessary. Again, if I run across someone out in the field, I can provide first aid, but I may not be able to handle extraction by myself. I may need to call other responders in, and cell phone reception out here varies anywhere from non-existent to not very good. So let's mark start time. We'll get started. And there we go, mission start time. I'm going to be evaluating comfort. How much does the pack shift over uneven terrain? Access to water, getting the pack off and on when I need access to gear, and we'll see some of the interesting scenery out here at the grasslands along the way. Time to get to it. You really know you're in Texas when. So this is a quick look at some of the terrain. I'm headed out along the Yellow Trail out of Tadra. Tadra stands for Texas Arabian Distance Racing Association. That is a trailhead. And this is actually a much easier portion of the trail. This is horse territory, so these are all horse trails. Now the ground is unstable, and so over time you get areas like right here. The last time I came through during the day, this is completely flat and grassy. And so as a result, the trails themselves, especially with lots of horse traffic, are incredibly uneven. And the U.S. Forest Service comes in periodically and fills them with sand. So I've had the pleasure today of walking through a lot of that fresh sand with my feet sinking a good 2 inches or more every step. So I'd say so far it's been a little bit of adventure, but certainly for the scenery, it's definitely worth it. All right, there's an update on mission time. As you can see here, I just completed 2 miles along the yellow trail. The yellow trail goes off in this direction, then not too far from the other side of that small gully. It detours and then goes back through the trees. So what I'm going to do is stay straight and go along this open terrain. It's much harder trekking. Got to really stay alert because the snakes are out and active now. Already seeing 2, so got to stay situationally aware. I'm also going to take a very brief hydration break. On that note, I'll point out that so far, this is the longest I have worn this pack and over the most difficult terrain. I'll have to say, comfort is better than I expected. A couple other benefits that you may like are that it's much easier to reach back in one hand your water bottle, provided that you use water bottles and not a hydration bladder. But it is a lot easier to get back there and get your water out and then back in with one hand. The other thing I've noticed, we have just enough breeze here that not having a ruck on the top and middle area of my back is allowing for more airflow, which means a little bit less sweating. So I'm not sure how far I'm going to take this. I want this to be at least a 3.5 hour exercise, so I'll check back in later. Well, it seems like this area gets steeper and more imposing every year. Remember what I said about unstable ground? So this will probably be the first thing that might rise to the level of a challenge in terms of this gear. The ground is wet, the rocks are wet, the grass still has dew, especially back there in the shaded areas. So let's see if I can get down and up and whether or not having some weight lower on my body than I'm used to poses any of an issue. Only one way to find out. Well, here we are up the other side. Not really that big of a deal. Going down was very easy because I could get good footing in the dirt. Going up was kind of challenging in the sense that that's all loose rock and everything is wet, very, very wet. The only thing I noticed was that the pack has a tendency to slide to the left and right. And when you go down and up inclines like this, you want to have your body more turned to the side and then step using more of the side of your foot. You don't want to go straight down, straight up. That's how people fall, lose their balance. And so when I did that, I did notice that there were a couple times it felt like the pack was really sliding more on me than it should have. It's not actually a big deal. It's just something you may have to get used to. I thought I'd point that out. So this is the direction we're headed. Let's keep going. Okay, another gully here. This one isn't nearly as steep, but it is substantially slicker. I've already decided to get down on 2 knees for safety. It is so slick I could end up flat on my back, and I've got this pack there at the bottom of my spine. I'm absolutely not going to let that happen. So I'm going to use an old technique that my instructor taught me. Get down there to flatter ground and then see if I can make it up the other side. But so far, the pack is continuing to do, I would say, adequate. Well, here we are back up the other side. You can see all the mud. Basically what I do is I just treat this as if I was going up and down a mountain. I've got a nice pick here. I've got these real nice 511 knee pads. I've got decent shoes. I've got gloves. There's just a lot of things I can do to maintain multiple points of contact and just ease my way down and then ease my way up. Spend minimal amount of time on the mud. I don't know if you can see the tracks off there to the side where I got a little extra traction from getting off the mud, but we're through this. The pack sliding did not bother me at all, and we are way off the beaten trail. Now we're just about, you can see where the yellow here hooks back up. The yellow actually goes back off through here, and then this section I'm on right now winds around, heads back to the north. I think that's where I'm going to go. Just stay off the beaten path as much as I can. Okay, time update, and we have arrived at the one-horse bridge. That's the direction that I came from. The footing continues to be really, really bad. Anything in the shade, you can't even stand on. There's a risk that you'll literally start surfing like you're out on the ocean. It's been that way since that second gully. So what I think I'm going to do is a change in plan. I don't want to go back through that second gully. That was in really terrible shape, and that is a extremely high risk. It's useful for me to work in that environment occasionally because it keeps my skill set up for search and rescue. This isn't a search and rescue op. As far as I know, nobody's life is on the line. So I'm not going to take that level of risk again knowingly for just a hike and a backpack evaluation. And again, I had no idea that that second gully was in that bad a shape. So instead of going back, I'm going to continue forward. I happen to know a shortcut. It's approximately 640 yards from the opposite edge of the bridge. It's not marked, although the U.S. Forest Service occasionally uses it to shortcut vehicles across trails. So there's a chance that this time of year it may be marked. But even if it's not marked, all I have to do is just orient myself southeast. And I've taken it before. I've even hit the shortcut without marking map or compass at night. If you watch the Night Corps P23I review, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to do it for what's probably the third or fourth time during the day. First, 5-minute break. I'm going to take the pack off, hydrate, and put it back on, then we'll get started again. Well, based on pace count and direction, I'm facing to the right of the sun. That's good. The radio tower is well off to my left, in fact, in line with the sun, which is good for this time of morning. So my natural landmarks all line up. That's the approximate direction. So if I'm correct, I'll be able to go here, curl around to the left, and eventually pick up a bit of a path that will leave me only 500 yards to the Turkey Trot Trail, which is almost 2 miles from taking the yellow all the way down through Piney Woods and then coming back this way. Once we get to Turkey Trot, it's not that far to get to the Royal Gorge Bridge, and from Royal Gorge, I know another shortcut back to Tadra. So far, Pat continues to be performing better than expected. Well, what was that they said on the A-team? I like it when a plan comes together. Almost exactly 500 yards. We've hooked up with the Turkey Trot Trail. This is the inbound of the blue and orange. You can see the markers there. So we can take this to the Royal Gorge Bridge, take another quick break, and then I'll show you another shortcut to get back to where we started. All right, time update. Royal Gorge Bridge. I'm going to take a very brief break here, Pack is holding up good. I'm going to take it off, put it back on, and then I'll show you the shortcut home. So if you follow the map, this is the way back to Todder. This is the continuation of the Yellow Trail. Still a pretty long way. Now, if you don't mind being a little adventurous, all this does is go way around like this and come back and loop and then heads that way. You can actually go this direction as a shortcut, and there's private property off to my left, and we can use that fence as a handrail. Now, it's all over open terrain, but there are some game trails, so it's not as bad as it looks right here the entire time. Couple small gullies to deal with. We have to worry about footing, but this will shave a good portion off the return trip. Now, I did notice, got the pack off right here, the waist strap was undone when I went to take the pack off. I'm not used to wearing packs that have waist strap. Chances are I did not lock it in adequately when I put it back on the last time. But other than that, it's continuing to do, I would say, better than expected. So we're closing in on 3 hours. This is the last gully that I have to traverse. This is a pretty easy one. Loose rocks and dirt, but it's largely exposed to the sun all day, so it should be packed down pretty tight. So I'm going to blow through this one, pick up the Yellow Trail, and then just follow the inbound of the Yellow all the way back to where we started at Todder. Then we'll do a wrap-up. Final mission time. There's the trailhead. This is where I started out. I just came in from that direction. There's the truck. There's where I filmed the opening segment. We just completed a big loop. So what I'm going to do now is unpack everything and show you what I was carrying today. A lot easier to do here in the shade. So you have an internal compartment with a separate area here and then a zipper container up here. I just left the cat attached there. You can actually load up quite a bit of stuff, more than you might think. These are medical supplies along with 2 ways to make fire. Like I said, hike during the day but plan to be caught out at night. Power bank, flashlight. This is the Phoenix ECP. More flashlights. I tend to go overboard on med gear. Like I say, if I ever run into somebody who is injured, I need to be, in fact, I may have to run into multiple people who are injured, so I may have to take care of 2 or 3 people unexpectedly. Then this is a lightweight rain poncho. I rolled that up inside the schmog before I tied it up on the outside. This is something I'd probably never use, but it's always good for shelter, helping improvise shade. That's one of the reasons I like the schmog in the first place. So how did it do overall? I think the overall score, which includes comfort, fit, functionality, how did it work for a reasonable purpose, which I would think would be no more than a half-day casual hike. I guess on the proverbial 1 to 10 scale, I'd give it about a 7. Comfort was definitely better than expected. The straps, the shoulder straps really saved it. Although you're going to have to be very careful for the amount of time I was out. Your load is going to be sensitive to how level that pack is on the back. And for me, I load right arm than left arm, so sometimes I can accidentally over tighten on the left, and so that will get angled like this. I'm really exaggerating. So sometimes you feel a little something on the left side, you need to just let off the strap until it goes away. The downside of the straps, I can't load anything on it. And I like to keep all my critical gear up around my chest. That's one reason I wear a chest rig, even with a more traditional ruck, so that if I'm ever in a situation where I'm seriously injured, I cannot get to my pack. I want to have everything that's critical right in front of me in that chest area. Couldn't do that with this setup because of the waist strap interfering with my firearm, so I had to sacrifice the chest rig in order to carry my 45 today chest rig. So I would say that's it for now. Overall, I've put more than 6 hours of time into it. It seemed to hold up really well. The padding is adequate. In terms of would I keep it, would I use it, I'm going to keep it because obviously I bought it. But in terms of use case, I really don't have any use for this in search and rescue. If I were to go out light like I did today, I'd rather have more of a scout pack. What I think I'm going to do with this is load it up, put it in my truck, and then I have a preloaded lightweight pack in my truck for emergency purposes. So one more look at everything I carried today. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down here. And as always, until the next review, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for watching the video.